Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to see, what if Izuku trained under Mirko, Midnight, and the Wild Pussycats, and they all fell for him? Izuku X Harem, Part 1. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. So let's begin the video. The autumn leaves danced through the air as Izuku Midoriya stood in front of UA High School, his green eyes reflecting a mixture of determination and nervous energy. 3 months had passed since the provisional license exam, and today everything was about to change. His phone buzzed with a message from All Might asking him to come to Principal Nizu's office immediately. Izuku's heart raced as he sprinted through the hallways, his mind running through 1,000 possible scenarios. Was something wrong? Had he done something to disappoint his mentor? When he burst through the office door, slightly out of breath, he found not just All Might and Principal Nizu, but also several unfamiliar faces on a video call displayed on the large screen behind the principal's desk. All Might smiled warmly at him, his skeletal form somehow still radiating confidence. Young Midoriya, thank you for coming so quickly. We have some exciting news about your training. Principal Nizu gestured for Izuku to sit down, his paws folded neatly on his desk. Midoriya, we have been closely monitoring your progress, and while your growth has been remarkable, we have identified several areas where specialized training could benefit you greatly. Izuku immediately pulled out his hero analysis notebook, pen ready. What kind of training, sir? I will work as hard as I need to. Nizu's eyes gleamed with that characteristic intelligence that always made students slightly nervous. We have arranged for you to train under multiple pro heroes, each specializing in different combat aspects. This is an experimental program, and you have been selected as our first participant. The screen behind Nizu flickered, showing 4 pro heroes. Izuku recognized them immediately, and his face flushed red. First, the rabbit hero Mirko will handle your close-quarters combat and agility training. All Might announced, gesturing to the screen where Mirko sat with her arms crossed, a confident smirk on her face. Mirko leaned toward her camera, her red eyes seeming to look directly at Izuku. I saw your sports festival fights, kid. You have got power, but your fighting form is terrible. We're going to fix that. Izuku scribbled frantically in his notebook, his cheeks still warm. Why yes, Mirko-san. I will work hard. Next, Midnight will teach you tactical awareness and psychological aspects of hero work. Nizu continued. Midnight waved from her portion of the screen, her usual playful smile in place. Don't worry, sweetie. I will make sure you learn how to read your opponents and use their expectations against them. Hero work is not just about punching hard, it is about fighting smart. And finally, the Wild Pussycats, specifically Mandalay and Pixie Bob, will train you in terrain adaptation and endurance. All Might finished. The 2 Pussycat heroes appeared on screen together. Mandalay gave a professional nod, while Pixie Bob waved enthusiastically. We remember you from the training camp, Midoriya. You have got potential, and we're going to help you reach it. Izuku felt overwhelmed, but incredibly excited. This was an amazing opportunity. When do I start? Tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Mirko said bluntly. My agency. Do not be late. That night, Izuku barely slept. His room was covered in hero posters and analysis notes, and he spent hours reviewing everything he knew about his new mentors. Mirko was ranked number 5, known for her incredible leg strength and fearless fighting style. Midnight had been a pro hero for over a decade, with expertise in subduing villains without causing unnecessary harm. The Pussycats were rescue specialists with an impressive track record. They were all accomplished professionals, and he was determined to learn everything he could from them. His mind raced with training possibilities and techniques he might learn. His mother knocked gently on his door around midnight. Izuku, you need to sleep. You have a big day tomorrow. I know, Mom. I'm just so excited. This could really help me become a better hero. Inko smiled warmly at her son. I am proud of you, but even heroes need rest. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Mom. Izuku finally closed his notebook and lay down, staring at his ceiling. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something new, something that would push him further than ever before. He took a deep breath, cleared his mind, and eventually drifted off to sleep. The alarm blared at 4 in the morning, and Izuku shot out of bed immediately. He had already laid out his training clothes the night before, a simple black tank top and athletic shorts that would allow maximum movement. After a quick breakfast and some stretches, he headed out into the pre-dawn darkness. The train ride to Mirko's agency felt longer than usual, though that might have been his nervous excitement. He arrived at 4:50, standing outside a sleek modern building in downtown Tokyo. The agency had a minimalist design with large windows and a sign featuring Mirko's hero logo, a stylized rabbit silhouette. Izuku checked his phone. 4:55. He had made it with time to spare. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. The front door suddenly slammed open with a bang that made Izuku jump. "You were early. Good start, kid." Mirko stood in the doorway, and Izuku felt his face heat up immediately. She wore her hero costume, which consisted of a dark purple, sleeveless leotard, white gloves that went up to her elbows, and white boots. Her white hair was tied back, and her red eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made him feel like prey being sized up by a predator. "Good morning, Mirko-san." Izuku bowed deeply, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just Mirko is fine. We're going to be training together for months, so drop the formalities." She walked up to him, circling around like she was evaluating merchandise. "All Might told me about you. The kid with the self-destructing quirk. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard." Izuku flinched at the blunt assessment. "I have been working on controlling it better. The percentage-based approach has really helped reduce the strain on my body, and I have been studying different applications of the power to maximize efficiency while minimizing damage to myself. And I think that if I can just figure out the right balance, then maybe I can push it further without breaking my bones, because the real issue is the sudden output rather than the sustained usage, and Gran Torino taught me about flow rather than burst, which has been incredibly helpful, and I have been working with Recovery Girl to understand the physiological limitations. And theoretically, if I can condition my body properly, then the threshold should increase over time, allowing for greater power output without the associated damage. And actually, I've been keeping detailed notes about every time I use my quirk and the resulting effects so that I can analyze patterns and optimize my approach going forward." He finally stopped to take a breath, realizing he had been rambling again. Mirko stared at him for a long moment, then burst out laughing. "You really do not shut up, do you? That is going to be a problem." She grabbed him by the shirt and dragged him into the agency. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with high ceilings, training equipment along the walls, and a large open area in the center with padded flooring. "Here is the deal, kid. You think too much. I read your entire file last night. Every fight you have been in, you spend half the time analyzing and planning when you should be moving and hitting." She released his shirt and walked to the center of the mat. "Combat is not about thinking, it is about instinct and reaction. But strategy is important too, right? Analysis helps me find weaknesses and exploit them effectively." Izuku protested, though his voice was uncertain. "Sure, analysis is great when you have time for it. But what happens when a villain does not give you time? What happens when you have to react in a split second?" She took a fighting stance, her powerful legs bent slightly, her body perfectly balanced. "Your problem is that you have been relying on your quirk as a crutch. You power up, you punch hard, you break yourself. That is not fighting, that is just flailing with power behind it." Izuku felt defensive, but knew she had a point. "So what do you want me to do?" "I want you to learn how to actually fight. Stance, footwork, reading your opponent, using your body efficiently." She gestured to the mat. "Get over here. No quirk, no full cowl, nothing. Just you and me hand to hand. Wait right now. Should I warm up more? Or maybe we could start with some basic drills, or perhaps you could demonstrate some techniques first, so I can understand the fundamental principles before we begin actual sparring. Because I want to make sure I understand the correct form, and I do not want to develop bad habits that would be counterproductive to the training, and maybe we could discuss the overall training plan, so I know what to expect, and can prepare mentally for the challenges ahead, and also I should probably take some notes on the key points you want me to focus on, so I can review them later and reinforce the lessons, because repetition and review are really important for skill development and muscle memory, and I just want to make sure I am approaching this correctly, because this is such an amazing opportunity, and I do not want to waste it by not being properly prepared." Mirko's eye twitched. "Kid, you have got 3 seconds to get on this mat before I drag you here myself." 1. Izuku quickly jogged over, his hands up nervously. "Oh, okay, I am ready." 2. "Wait, you did not get to 3. Mirko's legs swept toward his head faster than he could process. Years of training with All Might and Gran Torino saved him. His body moved on instinct, ducking low as her kick whooshed over his head. But he was off balance, and Mirko was already following up with a knee toward his midsection. He tried to block, getting his arms up, but the power behind her strike sent him sliding backward across the mat. Even without her quirk, her physical strength was incredible. Too slow. Mirko called out, already advancing. You dropped your guard when you ducked. You were wide open. She threw a punch toward his face, and Izuku barely managed to slip to the side. His counterpunch was clumsy and telegraphed. Mirko caught his wrist easily, twisted, and suddenly Izuku found himself flipped onto his back with the air knocked from his lungs. He gasped, staring up at the ceiling. That was less than 5 seconds. Get up. We're going again. For the next hour, Izuku experienced what could only be described as a systematic dismantling of everything he thought he knew about fighting. Every time he tried to apply a technique he had learned, Mirko countered it effortlessly. Every time he thought he saw an opening, it was a trap. Every time he hesitated to think, she punished him for it. By the time she finally called for a break, Izuku was drenched in sweat, covered in bruises, and lying flat on his back, trying to remember how to breathe properly. Mirko stood over him, barely winded, holding out a water bottle. You lasted longer than I expected. Most people give up after the first 10 minutes. Izuku took the bottle gratefully, drinking deeply. His entire body ached. I can keep going. I know you can. That is why All Might picked you for this. She sat down cross-legged next to him. But you need to understand something, kid. Power means nothing if you cannot use effectively. Right now, you have out a sports car engine and a bicycle frame. We need to rebuild your foundation. Izuku sat up slowly, his analytical mind already working despite his exhaustion. So we will focus on fundamental combat techniques, improving my reaction time, building better instincts, and conditioning my body to handle more stress. Mirko grinned. See, you do get it when you're not overthinking. Yeah, that is exactly what we are doing. But it is not going to be easy. I do not believe in going easy on people just because they're students. You wanted to be trained by me, so you're going to get the full Mirko experience. I would not want it any other way, Izuku said firmly, meeting her eyes despite his nervousness. Something flickered in Mirko's expression, a hint of respect. Good answer, kid. Rest up for 5 more minutes, then we're going again. And tomorrow, bring better padding because it is only going to get harder for me. As Izuku lay back down, staring at the ceiling and trying to will his muscles to stop screaming, he felt a strange sense of excitement despite the pain. This was going to push him further than ever before. This was going to make him stronger. He had no idea just how much this training would change his life. The next few weeks fell into a brutal routine. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings belonged to Mirko. She drilled him relentlessly in hand-to-hand combat, breaking down his movements and rebuilding them from scratch. She taught him how to read body language, how to predict an opponent's next move based on weight distribution and muscle tension, how to flow from defense to offense in a heartbeat. The training was exhausting, painful, and absolutely invaluable. What surprised Izuku more than the physical training was how much he enjoyed Mirko's company. Beneath her aggressive exterior and blunt words, she was genuinely invested in his growth. She pushed him hard, but never beyond what she believed he could handle, and she was quick to point out improvements alongside criticisms. Nice footwork there, kid, she called out during their 3rd week as Izuku successfully evaded a combination attack. You're starting to feel it instead of thinking about it. That is what I want to see. Izuku could not help but smile, even as he panted for breath. Thank you, Mirko. Your teaching style is really effective. I can feel the difference in how I move now compared to before. Mirko paused her assault, standing up straight with her hands on her hips. You know what, kid? I was not sure about this whole mentorship thing at first. Thought it would be a waste of my time, but you are actually pretty fun to train. Izuku felt his face heat up at the compliment. Oh, really? I mean, thank you. I'm learning so much from you. Your combat instincts are incredible, and the way you chain attacks together without any wasted movement is something I am trying to incorporate into my own style, and I think it is really helping me become more efficient with my quirk usage too, because now I understand better how to position myself for maximum impact with minimum exposure to counterattacks. And there you go overthinking again. Mirko laughed, walking over and ruffling his sweat-dampened hair roughly. But I guess that's just part of who you are, huh? The nerdy hero otaku who cannot stop analyzing everything. Is that a bad thing? Izuku asked, surprised by the almost affectionate gesture. Nah, it is kind of endearing actually. Makes you different from all the musclehead heroes out there. She pulled her hand back quickly, seeming almost embarrassed by her own words. Anyway, we are done for today. Hit the showers and get to class. And do not forget, tomorrow we are starting weapons training. Weapons? But I do not use weapons. You do now. A hero should be able to fight with anything, not just their fists and quirk. Plus, Mirko added with a mischievous grin, I want to see if you are as clumsy with a staff as you are with your feet. Hey, I'm getting better with my feet. Yeah. Now get out of here before you're late for class. As Izuku gathered his things and headed to the showers, he noticed Mirko watching him with an expression he could not quite read. It was softer than her usual intensity, almost thoughtful. He decided not to analyze it too much, though that was easier said than done for someone like him. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons brought a completely different kind of training. Midnight sessions were held at UA in a specialized classroom designed for tactical simulations. Where Mirko was all action and instinct, Midnight was strategy and psychology. The first time Izuku walked into her classroom, he found it set up like a villain's lair with mannequins, obstacles, and complex layouts. Welcome, Midoriya. Midnight greeted him with her characteristic, playful smile. She wore her hero costume, which was even more revealing than Mirko's, and Izuku had to actively focus on keeping his eyes on her face. Are you ready to learn how to think like your enemy? Igriega Midnight Sensei. Izuku stammered, clutching his notebook like a shield. Oh, you can keep the notebook for my lessons. In fact, I encourage it. Midnight walked around the mock setup, her fingers trailing along the walls. Tactical awareness is all about information gathering, pattern recognition, and predictive modeling. It is about understanding what your opponent wants and using that against them. She turned to face him, her expression becoming more serious. Mirko is teaching you how to fight. I'm going to teach you how to win before the fight even starts. Over the following weeks, Midnight put Izuku through scenario after scenario. She taught him how to read crime scenes, how to predict villain behavior based on their quirks and psychological profiles, how to set traps and manipulate environments to his advantage. But more than that, she taught him about people. Heroes often forget that villains are still human beings with motivations, fears, and desires. Midnight explained during one session where they were analyzing footage of real villain encounters. If you understand what drives them, you can predict their actions and counter them more effectively. Izuku scribbled notes furiously. So it is like chess, trying to think several moves ahead based on what you know about your opponent's strategy and goals. Exactly. But unlike chess, your opponent might flip the board if they get desperate. You need to account for emotional variables, not just logical ones. Midnight leaned against her desk, studying him with an intensity that made him nervous. Tell me, Midoriya, what is your greatest fear as a hero? The question caught him off guard. I guess my greatest fear would be not being able to save someone, failing when people need me most. Midnight nodded slowly, and that fear, while noble, can be used against you. A smart villain would create situations where you have to choose who to save, forcing you into emotional paralysis. She walked closer to him, her voice gentle. Part of tactical awareness is knowing your own weaknesses so you can guard against them. Izuku felt a lump in his throat. How do you deal with that? How do you make those impossible choices? Experience helps, but honestly, you never get used to it. Midnight placed a hand on his shoulder, her playful demeanor completely gone. The best you can do is train hard, think smart, and trust that you made the right decision with the information you had. Second-guessing yourself in the field gets people killed. The weight of her words settled over Izuku like a heavy blanket. He had always known hero work was serious, but having it spelled out so directly by someone with years of experience drove the point home in a new way. Midnight must have sensed his mood shift because her smile returned. But hey, that is why you're training with all of us, right? We're going to make sure you are as prepared as possible. Now, let us run through that hostage scenario again. This time, I want you to try manipulating the villain's attention using environmental cues. As the weeks progressed, Izuku found himself looking forward to midnight sessions as much as Mirko's, though for different reasons. Where Mirko challenged his body, Midnight challenged his mind. And somewhere along the way, he started noticing little things about her that had nothing to do with her costume or hero work. Like how she always brought an extra coffee for him on early morning sessions after particularly brutal training days with Mirko. Or how she would sometimes share stories about her early career, talking about her own struggles and failures with a candor that made him feel less alone in his doubts. Or how her eyes would light up when he successfully completed a particularly difficult tactical puzzle. "You're getting really good at this, Midoriya," she commented one afternoon after he had successfully navigated a complex hostage simulation. "Your analytical mind is perfect for tactical work. Have you ever considered specializing in intelligence gathering or strategic planning?" "I appreciate that, Midnight Sensei. But I want to be a hero who saves people directly, someone who can rush in and make a difference with my own hands," Izuku explained, then quickly added, "Though I definitely see the value in what you're teaching me. It's going to make me so much more effective in the field." Midnight laughed, a sound that made his heart skip slightly. "You do not have to qualify every statement, sweetie. I understand wanting to be on the front lines. That is where I started too." She looked at him with an expression that was almost fond. "You have got a good heart, Midoriya. Do not ever lose that, okay? The world needs heroes who care as much as you do." Izuku felt his face turn red. Thank you, Sensei. That means a lot coming from you." There was a moment where they just looked at each other, and Izuku could have sworn the air in the room felt different somehow. Then Midnight clapped her hands together, breaking the moment. "All right, enough sentimental stuff. Let's move on to psychological warfare tactics. I'm going to teach you how to get into a villain's head and mess with them." As she launched into her explanation, Izuku found himself thinking that his teachers were becoming more than just mentors. They were becoming people he genuinely cared about, people whose opinions mattered to him beyond just their skills as heroes. He shook his head slightly, focusing back on Midnight's lesson. He needed to concentrate. These were professional relationships, nothing more. But a small part of him wondered why that thought made him feel slightly disappointed. Weekends brought yet another dimension to his training. The Wild Pussycats had set up a training facility in the mountains outside the city, and every Saturday and Sunday, Izuku would make the trip out there for endurance and terrain training. Mandalay and Pixie Bob were a study in contrasts. Mandalay was calm, collected, and methodical in her teaching approach. Pixie Bob was energetic, playful, and had a tendency to make training into competitive games. "Welcome back, Midoriya." Pixie Bob bounced up to him as he arrived for his third weekend of training. "Ready for another round of Mountain Madness?" "Good morning, Pixie Bob-san, Mandalay-san." Izuku bowed to both heroes. "I have been working on my stamina like you suggested, running an extra 5 kilometers every morning before school. That is great dedication," Mandalay said approvingly. "Today we're going to put that stamina to the test. We have set up an obstacle course through the forest. Your goal is to complete it as quickly as possible while dealing with various surprises we have prepared." "Surprises?" Izuku asked nervously. Pixie Bob grinned mischievously. "Earth beasts, terrain traps, simulated villain encounters, the works. It will be just like a real emergency situation where you have to adapt on the fly." The course was brutal. Izuku found himself climbing cliffs, navigating through dense forest, crossing rivers, and fighting off Pixie Bob's earth constructs at every turn. But unlike Mirko's combat training or Midnight's tactical sessions, this training pushed his endurance and adaptability to their limits. What made it even more challenging was that the Pussycats would change the course every weekend, never letting him get comfortable with any one configuration. A hero never knows what terrain they will be fighting on. Mandalay called out through her telepath. Why as Izuku struggled up a muddy slope in pouring rain. You need to be able to function effectively in any environment. By the time he finished each course, Izuku was completely exhausted, covered in mud, scratched from branches, and absolutely exhilarated. There was something about pushing his body to its absolute limit in nature that felt different from gym training. After one particularly grueling session, Izuku collapsed at the finish line, breathing hard but smiling. "I did it. New personal record." Pixie Bob plopped down next to him, handing him a water bottle. You know, kid, when we first met you at the training camp, I thought you were just another promising student. But watching you push yourself like this every weekend, you have got something special. Mandalay sat on his other side, her expression warm. She's right. Most students would have given up or asked for easier training by now. You just keep pushing harder. Izuku sat up, looking between the two heroes. That is because I want to be the best hero I can be. Everyone is investing so much time in training me. Mirko, Midnight, you two, All Might, I cannot let any of you down. You're not doing this for us though, are you? Mandalay asked gently. You're doing this because you genuinely want to help people. Izuku nodded. Ever since I was a kid, all I wanted was to save people with a smile, like All Might. Even when everyone said I could not be a hero without a quirk, I never stopped wanting it. Pixie Bob bumped her shoulder against us playfully. Well, you have got a quirk now, and you are working harder than anyone I have ever seen. Keep this up, and you're going to be amazing. The three of them sat there for a while, watching the sunset over the mountains. It was peaceful in a way that Izuku had not experienced in a long time. No pressure, no expectations, just three people enjoying a quiet moment together. Hey, Midoriya, Pixie Bob said suddenly. After training next week, do you want to come into town with us? There's a festival happening, and it might be fun to relax a little. All training and no play makes for a boring hero. Mandalay nodded. That is actually a good idea. You have been pushing yourself very hard. Some social time would be good for you. Izuku felt his heart rate pick up. Going to a festival with two pro heroes? That sounded almost like a date. No, wait, it was definitely not a date. Just three people hanging out casually. Colleagues spending time together. Totally normal and professional. I would love to, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. That sounds really fun. Great. It is a date then, Pixie Bob said cheerfully, then seemed to realize her word choice. I mean, not a date, just like a friend date. A hangout. You know what I mean? Mandalay laughed at her partner's flustered explanation. We will pick you up after training next Saturday, or something casual. As Izuku rode the train back to the city that evening, he found himself smiling despite his exhaustion. His life had become incredibly full lately. Intense training, new friendships, and opportunities he had only dreamed about. He pulled out his phone and looked at a group photo the Pussycats had insisted on taking after training. All three of them were muddy and tired, but smiling broadly. Izuku saved it as his phone background. His mother noticed his good mood when he got home. You seem happy, Izuku. Training is going well? It is going amazing, Mom. I am learning so much from everyone. Izuku helped her set the table for dinner. And next week, I am going to a festival with Mandalay and Pixie Bob after training. Inko smiled knowingly. That sounds lovely, dear. Just remember to be respectful and appropriate. They are your teachers, after all. Mom. Izuku's face turned red. It is not like that. We're just hanging out as friends. If you say so, sweetie. Inko's tone suggested she did not quite believe him, but she let the subject drop. That night, as Izuku lay in bed reviewing his training notes, his phone buzzed with messages. From Mirko. Do not slack off on your conditioning exercises just because we are not training tomorrow. I will know if you did. From Midnight. Great work in today's session. I attached some reading material on psychological profiling that I think you will find interesting. From Mandalay. Looking forward to the festival next week. Sleep well, Midoriya. Izuku smiled, typing quick responses to each of them. A few months ago, he never would have imagined having pro heroes casually texting him like this. It felt surreal, but also really nice. He turned off his phone and closed his eyes, already looking forward to the next day's training. His life was changing in ways he had never expected, and he had a feeling this was only the beginning. The morning sun cast long shadows across the training grounds as Izuku arrived at Mirko's agency for what had become his favorite part of the week. 2 months had passed since his specialized training began, and the changes were remarkable. His movements were sharper, his reflexes faster, and most importantly, he was beginning to trust his instincts rather than overthinking every decision. Mirko was already waiting, stretching her powerful legs in preparation. She wore her usual hero costume, though Izuku had grown somewhat more comfortable around it, focusing on her as a mentor rather than getting flustered by her appearance. Somewhat being the key word. You're late, kid, she called out, though her tone lacked any real irritation. Traffic getting worse? Actually, I am 3 minutes early. Izuku checked his phone to confirm. You just always get here impossibly early. Mirko grinned, her red eyes gleaming with amusement. That is because I actually enjoy my job, unlike most heroes who treat it like a 9-to-5 desk position. Now drop your bag and warm up. Today we're doing something different. Izuku's analytical mind immediately kicked into gear as he set his belongings aside and began his stretching routine. Different how? Are we working on a new technique? Maybe incorporating quirk usage with the hand-to-hand fundamentals? Or perhaps environmental awareness training where I have to fight while navigating obstacles? You really cannot help yourself, can you? Mirko walked over and flicked his forehead lightly. Stop trying to predict everything and just experience it. That is still your biggest weakness, you know? You have gotten way better at combat, but you still hesitate sometimes because your brain is running through scenarios instead of just acting. Izuku rubbed his forehead, chastened. I know, I am working on it. It is just hard to turn off years of analysis habits. Mirko's expression softened slightly. I get it, kid. But trust me, the best fighters are the ones who can switch between thinking and acting seamlessly. You're almost there. She stepped back and took a combat stance. Today we're doing full contact sparring with quirks allowed. I want to see how you integrate everything I have taught you with your one for all. Izuku felt his heart rate increase, both from excitement and nervousness. Full contact with quirks against Mirko? She was a top 5 hero with incredible power. Are you sure? I mean, I did not want to accidentally hurt you or anything. Mirko threw her head back and laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. Kid, you are sweet, but I'm not made of glass. I have fought Nomus and lived to tell the tale. You think your little lightning punches are going to take me down? Now stop stalling and power up. Izuku took a deep breath and activated one for all at 15%, green lightning crackling across his body as full cowl enveloped him. This was a percentage he could maintain comfortably now without straining his body, thanks to months of conditioning. 15%? That is it. Mirko looked almost disappointed. Come on, I know you can push higher than that. I can go to 20% sustainably, but anything higher than that still causes some damage over extended periods. Izuku explained, falling into the fighting stance Mirko had drilled into him. I am working on raising my threshold gradually. Then show me your 20%. I want to see what you are really capable of. Mirko bent her knees slightly, her powerful legs tensing in preparation. And do not hold back, kid. That is an order. Izuku pushed his output to 20%, feeling the familiar rush of power flooding through his body. His perception sharpened, his muscles sang with energy, and the world seemed to slow down just slightly. Okay, I am ready. The fight that followed was unlike anything Izuku had experienced before. Mirko moved with incredible speed and power, her rabbit quirk giving her leg strength that could shatter concrete. But now, with his improved combat fundamentals and heightened perception from One for All, Izuku could actually keep up. He ducked under her opening kick, noting how she shifted her weight slightly to the left, telegraphing her next move. Instead of overthinking it, he simply reacted, stepping in close to disrupt her balance. His counterpunch was blocked, but he flowed immediately into a low sweep, something Mirko had taught him about maintaining offensive pressure. Nice! Mirko called out, jumping over his sweep and retaliating with a knee strike that Izuku barely avoided. You are actually seeing my movements now, instead of just reacting blindly. The sparring session lasted nearly 30 minutes, far longer than their usual exchanges. Izuku found himself falling into a rhythm, his body moving with a fluidity that felt almost natural. When he attacked, he did not second-guess his approach. When he defended, he trusted his instincts about where the next strike would come from. Finally, Mirko called for a stop, both of them breathing hard from the exertion. She walked over and offered him a fist bump, which he returned with a tired smile. Now that is what I'm talking about, Mirko said enthusiastically. You were actually in the moment, kid. Not in your head, not overthinking, just fighting. That was good, really good. Izuku felt a warm glow of pride at her praise. Thank you, Mirko. I could not have gotten here without your teaching. Your methods really work for me. They sat down against the wall, both taking long drinks from their water bottles. The morning sun streamed through the high windows, and in the comfortable silence, Izuku found himself studying his mentor. Mirko was always so confident, so self-assured. He wondered what that must be like to move through the world without constant doubt. Hey, Mirko, can I ask you something personal? She raised an eyebrow. Depends on how personal, but shoot. How do you stay so confident all the time? Like, do you ever doubt yourself or worry about making mistakes? Mirko was quiet for a moment, considering the question seriously. You know, kid, people think confidence means never being scared or never doubting yourself. That is not true at all. I doubt myself plenty. Every time I go up against a strong villain, there is a part of me wondering if this is the fight where I finally lose. Really? Izuku looked at her in surprise. But you always seem so fearless. That is because I decided a long time ago that even if I'm scared, even if I'm not sure I can win, I'm still going to give it everything I have got. Confidence is not about knowing you will succeed. It is about being willing to try your absolute hardest regardless of the outcome. Mirko looked at him directly, her red eyes serious. You have got that same quality, Izuku. You might overthink things and doubt yourself, but when it matters, you always step up. That is real courage. It was the first time she had used his first name instead of calling him kid, and Izuku felt something shift in their dynamic. This felt less like a teacher-student relationship and more like two people who genuinely respected each other. Thank you, Mirko. That really means a lot to me, he said quietly. She bumped her shoulder against his, a gesture that was almost affectionate. You are a good kid, Izuku. Any hero would be lucky to have you as their partner. She paused, then added, and I mean that. There was a moment where they just sat there together, shoulders touching, comfortable in the silence. Then Mirko suddenly stood up, offering him a hand. Come on, we still have time for one more round. And then if you want, we could grab breakfast together. There's a good cafe nearby, and I am starving. Izuku took her hand, letting her pull him to his feet. That sounds great. As they moved back to the center of the training area, Izuku found himself smiling. These training sessions had become about more than just improving his skills. They had become moments he genuinely looked forward to, times when he could push himself alongside someone who believed in him. Later that afternoon, after classes at UA had ended, Izuku made his way to Midnight's tactical training room. The session today was focused on hostage situations, something Midnight had been building toward for several weeks. Midoriya. Right on time as always. Midnight greeted him warmly. She had changed from her hero costume into more practical training attire, though she still managed to make even workout clothes look stylish. How was training with Mirko this morning? It was amazing. We did full contact sparring with Quirks for the first time, and I actually managed to keep up with her. Well, mostly keep up. She is incredibly fast and strong. Izuku set down his bag and pulled out his notebook. Oh, and she used my first name for the first time, which was nice. It felt like we are becoming actual friends rather than just teacher and student. Midnight smiled, though there was something calculating in her expression. Is that so? Well, I'm glad you two are bonding. Mirko can be prickly, but she is loyal to the people she cares about. She walked over to the simulation setup. Now then, let us talk about hostage situations. What is the primary objective? Ensuring the safety of the hostages above all else. Izuku answered immediately. Capturing the villain is secondary to making sure innocent people are not harmed. Correct. But here is where it gets complicated. Midnight pulled up footage of a real hostage situation on a large screen. Many villains take hostages specifically because they know heroes will prioritize civilian safety. They use that knowledge against you, creating impossible scenarios where any action you take could result in harm. Izuku studied the footage carefully, his mind already analyzing the situation. So the key is to create options where there were none before, to change the parameters of the situation in your favor. Exactly. You're getting better at this kind of thinking. Midnight seemed pleased. Now, I'm going to put you through a simulation. The setup is this. A villain has taken 3 hostages in a bank. The villain's quirk allows them to create explosive constructs that they have placed on each hostage. You have 5 minutes before the explosives detonate. What you do? The simulation began, and Izuku found himself in a digital recreation of a bank interior. 3 mannequins represented the hostages, each with a glowing red device attached to them. A 4th mannequin represented the villain, positioned where they could see all 3 hostages. Izuku's first instinct was to rush in and try to save everyone at once, but he forced himself to pause and think. Midnight had taught him better than that. What would she want him to consider? He examined the situation from multiple angles using the simulation controls. The villain's position gave them line of sight to all hostages, but there were blind spots behind support pillars. The explosive devices had visible timers and appeared to be remotely controlled. The hostages were positioned in a triangle formation, about 10 meters apart from each other. Okay, I need to approach this systematically. Izuku muttered to himself, falling into his analysis mode. First, I need to determine if I can disable the explosives directly. If they are remotely controlled, taking out the villain might detonate them as a fail-safe, so that is risky. Second option is to evacuate the hostages faster than the villain can react. With full cal at 20%, I could potentially grab all three before the villain triggers the explosives, but that is assuming my speed is sufficient and that the detonation is not automatic. He paused, thinking about what Midnight had taught him about psychology. What does the villain want? If they wanted the hostages dead, they would have killed them already. This is about leverage, about using the threat of violence to achieve some goal. So maybe negotiation is possible, or creating a scenario where the villain thinks they're getting what they want while actually losing control of the situation. Izuku decided on his approach. He used the simulation to position himself at the entrance and called out to the villain. "I'm here to talk. What are your demands?" The simulation villain responded with a programmed dialogue about wanting money and a vehicle. Standard hostage situation demands. But Izuku noticed something interesting in the villain's positioning. They kept glancing toward one of the exits, suggesting an escape route they had already planned. Midnight was watching from her desk, observing how he handled the scenario. She did not interrupt, letting him work through it himself. Izuku continued negotiating, slowly moving into the bank while keeping his hands visible. He made a show of calling someone on his phone to arrange for the demanded vehicle, all while calculating distances and approach angles. When he was close enough to one of the support pillars, he made his move. Activating full cowl at 20%, he burst forward with incredible speed. Instead of going for the hostages first, he grabbed a nearby desk and hurled it at the villain, forcing them to dodge. In that split second of distraction, he used a combination of speed and the room's layout to collect all three hostages, moving them behind the support pillars where the villain could not see them. The villain in the simulation triggered the explosives, but Izuku had already removed the devices and thrown them toward an empty area of the bank where they detonated harmlessly. Simulation complete. The computer announced. All hostages saved. Villain captured. Time elapsed. 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Midnight stood and walked over, clapping slowly. Very impressive, Midoriya. You combined misdirection, speed, environmental awareness, and tactical thinking. That was exactly the kind of multi-layered approach I wanted to see. Izuku powered down, breathing slightly heavy from the adrenaline. I used what you taught me about reading the situation and what Mirko taught me about trusting my instincts once I had a plan. It felt like everything came together. That is because it did. You're integrating lessons from multiple sources and making them your own. That is the mark of a true hero in development. Midnight handed him a water bottle and sat on the edge of her desk. You know, when All Might first approached me about training you, I was not sure what to expect. But you have exceeded every expectation I had. Izuku felt his face warm at the compliment. I'm just trying to live up to everyone's faith in me. You, Mirko, the Pussycats, All Might, everyone is investing so much time and effort into my development. I want to make sure it is worth it. Midnight reached out and gently tilted his chin up, making him meet her eyes. Sweetie, you need to understand something. We are not training you because we expect a return on investment. We are training you because we see your potential and we want to help you reach it. You do not owe us anything except to be the best hero you can be. The gentle touch and sincere words made Izuku's heart race. Midnight had always been kind to him, but lately there seemed to be an extra warmth in her interactions, a genuine affection beyond just teacher and student. Thank you, Midnight Sensei. I will keep working hard, I promise. She smiled and released his chin, but her hand trailed down to briefly squeeze his shoulder. I know you will. Now, how about we grab some tea before you head home? I know a quiet place nearby where we can talk shop without the usual chaos of the school environment. I would like that, Izuku said, perhaps a bit too eagerly. They ended up at a small traditional tea house tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. The atmosphere was peaceful, with soft music playing and the gentle sound of water from a small fountain in the corner. They sat at a low table, and Midnight ordered for both of them with practiced ease. So, tell me honestly, Midnight said once their tea arrived, how are you balancing everything? the specialized training, your regular classes, homework, and I assume you're still doing your hero analysis notebooks in whatever spare time you have left. Izuku laughed sheepishly. It is a lot, I will not lie. Some days I get maybe 5 hours of sleep, but it is worth it. Every day, I feel myself getting stronger, not just physically, but mentally too. Your tactical lessons have changed how I approach problems, both in hero work and in regular life. Midnight sipped her tea, her expression thoughtful. Just make sure you are not burning yourself out. Even heroes need rest and recovery time. Your body and mind need time to process and integrate everything you are learning. I know, and I'm trying to be more mindful of that. Actually, this weekend the Pussycats invited me to a festival after training. Mandalay said I need more social time to balance out all the intense work. A festival? That sounds lovely. Midnight's smile had a slight edge to it that Izuku could not quite interpret. It is good that they're looking out for your well-being. Just the three of you? Yeah, Pixie Bob suggested it a few weeks ago, and we finally found a weekend that works with everyone's schedules. I am actually pretty excited about it. I have not been to a festival in years. Well, you'll have to tell me all about it next week. Maybe bring me back some festival candy if they have any good vendors. Midnight leaned forward slightly. And Midoriya? Try to relax and have fun. You're still a teenager, not just a hero in training. It is okay to enjoy yourself sometimes. I will try, Izuku promised, though part of him felt guilty at the thought of taking time off from training. They talked for another hour, the conversation drifting from hero work to more personal topics. Midnight shared stories from her early career, including some embarrassing failures that made Izuku feel better about his own mistakes. She listened attentively when he talked about his childhood and his relationship with his mother. By the time they parted ways, Izuku felt like he understood Midnight better as a person rather than just as a hero and teacher. There was a warmth between them that felt different from his relationship with Mirko or the Pussycats, something softer but no less meaningful. As he rode the train home, Izuku found himself thinking about all his mentors and how they each brought something unique to his life. Mirko pushed him physically and taught him to trust his instincts. Midnight challenged his mind and helped him think strategically. And the Pussycats, well, he would see them this weekend and continue building that relationship. His phone buzzed with a message from his class group chat. Uraraka had sent a photo from their study session, with Ida making his characteristic chopping gestures and Todoroki looking confused in the background. Izuku smiled, typing a quick response. He had been so focused on his specialized training that he had not spent as much time with his classmates lately. Maybe he should organize something with them soon, a movie night or just hanging out. Another message came through, this one from Mirko. Do not forget your conditioning exercises tonight. I will quiz you on muscle recovery techniques tomorrow morning. Then one from Midnight. Thank you for the tea and conversation. It was nice spending time with you outside of training. Sleep well, Midoriya. And finally, from Mandalay. Looking forward to Saturday. Pixie Bob is already planning which festival games she wants to drag you to. Izuku saved all the messages, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. His life had become so full lately, so rich with connections and opportunities. He felt grateful for every moment of it. When he got home, his mother had dinner waiting. They ate together, and Izuku told her about his day, carefully editing out the more dangerous parts of his training to avoid worrying her. You seem really happy lately, Izuku, Inko observed, smiling at her son. This training program is good for you, is it not? It really is, Mom. I am learning so much and growing stronger every day. Izuku hesitated, then added, and my teachers are really great people. I feel lucky to have them in my life. Just remember to maintain appropriate boundaries, dear. They are your teachers first and foremost. Mom. Izuku felt his face heat up. It is not like that at all. They are professionals, and I respect them as mentors. Inko just smiled knowingly, not pushing the subject further. If you say so, sweetheart. Now finish your vegetables before they get cold. That night, Izuku lay in bed staring at his ceiling covered in hero posters. His mind drifted through the events of the day, from sparring with Mirko to tea with Midnight. He thought about how comfortable he had become around them, how their relationships had evolved from purely professional to something more complex. He shook his head, trying to clear those thoughts. They were his teachers, respected pro heroes. Any feelings beyond professional admiration and gratitude were inappropriate. He needed to maintain those boundaries for everyone's sake. But as he drifted off to sleep, his last thoughts were of red eyes that sparkled with challenge, dark hair that framed a gentle smile, and the promise of a festival under the stars. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather, clear skies, mild temperature, and just enough breeze to keep things comfortable. Izuku arrived at the Pussycats mountain facility with his usual training gear, but he had also packed casual clothes in his bag for the festival. "Good morning," he called out as he approached the main building. Pixie Bob burst out of the entrance with her characteristic energy. "Midoriya, perfect timing. We have got an awesome course set up for you today." Then afterward, festival time. Mandalay followed at a more sedate pace, though she was smiling. "Good morning, Midoriya. I hope you are ready for a challenge today. We are going to push your endurance to new levels." "I'm always ready," Izuku said enthusiastically. "What is the course today?" The course turned out to be the most challenging one yet. It combined elements from all their previous training sessions into one massive gauntlet that stretched across several kilometers of mountain terrain. Cliff climbing, river crossing, dense forest navigation, earth beast combat, and various environmental hazards all stood between Izuku and the finish line. "Your goal is to complete this in under 2 hours," Mandalay explained, showing him the map. "That is aggressive, but we think you are ready for it based on your progress. And remember, this simulates a real emergency response situation." Pixie Bob added, "In the field, you will not have time to stop and rest. You need to keep moving no matter how tired you get." Izuku studied the map carefully, plotting his route and noting the most challenging sections. "I understand. I will give it everything I have got." The run was brutal. Within the first 30 minutes, Izuku was already breathing hard, his muscles burning from the constant exertion. The earth beasts that Pixie Bob had scattered throughout the course forced him to fight while already exhausted, and the terrain itself seemed designed to sap his stamina as efficiently as possible. But he kept moving. When his legs screamed for rest, he thought about Mirko's words about pushing through discomfort. When his mind wanted to give up, he remembered Midnight's lessons about mental fortitude. And when the path ahead seemed impossible, he drew on everything the Pussycats had taught him about terrain adaptation. 90 minutes in, he was covered in mud, scratched from branches, soaked from the river crossing, and running on pure determination. But he could see the finish line ahead, marked by a flag at the top of the final hill. "Come on, Izuku," he heard Pixie Bob's voice calling out. "You're almost there. Push through." With a final burst of effort, channeling full cowl at 15% despite his exhaustion, Izuku sprinted up the hill and crossed the finish line. He immediately collapsed, his chest heaving as he tried to remember how to breathe properly. 1 hour and 53 minutes, Mandalay announced, checking her stopwatch. "That is incredible, Midoriya. You shaved 17 minutes off your previous best time." Pixie Bob ran over with water and a towel. "You were amazing. The way you handled that section with the earth beast while low on stamina showed real growth." Izuku accepted the water gratefully, drinking deeply before responding. "Thank you both. That was the hardest physical challenge I have ever completed, but I feel great knowing I did it." After he had recovered enough to stand, the three of them walked back to the facility. Izuku showered and changed into his casual clothes, a simple green button-up shirt and jeans. When he emerged, he found the Pussycats had also changed out of their hero costume. Mandalay wore a lovely blue sundress that showed off her figure while remaining tasteful. Pixie Bob had opted for a pink skirt and white top that suited her energetic personality. Both looked stunning, and Izuku had to consciously remind himself not to stare. "You clean up nice, kid," Pixie Bob said with a grin. "Ready to have some actual fun for once?" "Definitely. What kind of festival is it exactly?" "It is a traditional summer festival with food stalls, games, and they will have fireworks later tonight," Mandalay explained as they walked to Mandalay's car. "We try to attend every year when we're not on hero duty. It is nice to just be normal people sometimes." The drive into town took about 30 minutes, and they spent it talking about everything except hero work. Pixie Bob told funny stories about their early days as a hero team, and Mandalay shared her thoughts on various movies and books. Izuku found himself relaxing, the conversation flowing naturally. When they arrived at the festival, the sun was beginning to set, casting everything in a warm golden light. The streets were lined with colorful stalls selling food, toys, and games. Lanterns hung overhead, and the air was filled with the sounds of laughter and traditional festival music. "Where should we start?" Izuku asked, looking around with wide eyes. He had not been to something like this since he was very young. "Food first," Pixie Bob declared. "I am starving, and everything smells amazing." They wandered through the stalls, sampling various festival foods. Takoyaki, yakisoba, candy apples, and various sweets all made their way into their hands. Izuku insisted on paying for everything despite the Pussycats' protests. "You are my students, and you have been teaching me for free. The least I can do is buy you some festival food," he argued. Mandalay smiled warmly. "You are very thoughtful, Midoriya." "Thank you." As they ate and walked, Izuku found himself positioned between the two heroes, almost like they were flanking him protectively. People occasionally recognized them and asked for autographs, which they signed graciously before moving on. "Let's try some games," Pixie Bob suggested, pulling them toward a ring toss booth. "Midoriya, bet you cannot win that big prize on the top shelf." "Challenge accepted." Izuku grinned, paying for 3 tries. His first attempt missed completely, the ring bouncing off the bottle awkwardly. His second attempt was closer, but still did not land. On his third and final try, he channeled just a tiny bit of one for all into his throw, carefully calculating the angle and force needed. The ring sailed through the air and landed perfectly around the bottleneck. "We have a winner," the booth operator announced, retrieving the large stuffed rabbit from the top shelf. "Here you go, young man." Izuku accepted the prize, then immediately turned and offered it to Pixie Bob. "Here, this is for you. Thank you for all your training and for inviting me today." Pixie Bob's eyes went wide, and a blush colored her cheeks. "For me? Really?" "Of course." Izuku smiled genuinely. "You seemed excited about the games, so I wanted you to have it." She accepted the stuffed rabbit, hugging it close. "Thank you, Midoriya. That is really sweet of you." Mandalay had been watching the exchange with an unreadable expression. "Shall we continue exploring?" They played several more games, with Izuku managing to win prizes at a few of them. He gave a stuffed cat to Mandalay, who accepted it with a soft smile and thanked him quietly. As the sky darkened and the lanterns provided most of the light, the festival atmosphere became more romantic. Couples walked hand in hand, and the energy shifted from daytime excitement to evening intimacy. "The fireworks should start soon," Mandalay said, checking her phone. "There's a good viewing spot on the hill overlooking the festival. Should we head up there?" They climbed the hill together, finding a spot with a perfect view of both the festival below and the sky above. They sat on the grass, Izuku once again positioned between the two heroes. "This has been really fun," Izuku said sincerely. "Thank you both for inviting me. I needed this more than I realized. We all need breaks from hero work sometimes," Mandalay said softly. "Even people training to be heroes. Plus, you're fun to hang out with," Pixie Bob added, still hugging her stuffed rabbit. "You're sweet and thoughtful, and you actually listen when people talk. That is rarer than you might think." Before Izuku could respond, the first firework exploded overhead, painting the sky in brilliant colors. They all looked up, watching the display in comfortable silence. As the fireworks continued, Izuku became acutely aware of how close the two women were sitting to him. Pixie Bob's shoulder pressed against his left side, and Mandalay's hand rested on the grass, just centimeters from his right hand. His heart raced for reasons that had nothing to do with physical exertion. This felt different from his training sessions, or even his tea with Midnight. This felt like something crossing a line from professional into personal territory. "Midoriya?" Mandalay's voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course, Mandalay-san. You can call me Shino when we are not in a professional setting." She paused, seeming to gather her thoughts. "Do you enjoy spending time with us? Not just the training, but moments like this?" Izuku felt his face heat up despite the darkness hiding his blush. "I really do. You and Pixie Bob have been amazing mentors, but you have also been really kind to me as people. These past few months training with you have been some of the happiest of my life. Call me Ryuko outside of training." Pixie Bob said quietly, her usual energy subdued. "And I feel the same way. Training you has been great, but getting to know you as a person has been even better." A particularly large firework exploded overhead, and in the momentary bright light, Izuku saw both women looking at him with expressions he could not quite interpret. There was warmth there, affection certainly, but also something deeper that made his pulse quicken. "I am glad," he said softly, not sure what else to say. They sat together watching the rest of the fireworks display, the comfortable silence between them feeling charged with unspoken emotions. When the final firework faded and the crowd below began to disperse, none of them moved immediately. "We should probably head back." "Mandalay no," Shino finally said, though she sounded reluctant. The drive back to the mountain facility was quiet, but not uncomfortably so. Izuku sat in the back seat, watching the passing scenery and thinking about the evening. Something had shifted between the three of them, though he could not quite put his finger on what exactly had changed. When they arrived back at the facility, Izuku gathered his training gear from inside. "Thank you again for today," he said, bowing to both of them. "This was one of the best days I've had in a long time." Ryuko stepped forward and, before Izuku could react, wrapped him in a brief hug. "You're welcome, Midoriya. We should do this again sometime." She pulled back quickly, her face slightly red even in the dim light. Shino approached next, and Izuku thought she might hug him too. Instead, she placed a gentle hand on his cheek, her touch soft and warm. "Get home safely. Text us when you arrive so we know you made it okay." "I will," Izuku promised, his heart hammering in his chest. As he rode the train home, clutching his bag and replaying the day's events in his mind, Izuku knew he was in dangerous territory. His feelings for his mentors were becoming complicated, shifting from simple admiration into something more personal and intimate. He should probably talk to someone about this, maybe All Might or even his mother. But part of him wanted to keep these feelings private, to protect this special connection he was building with these incredible women. His phone buzzed with messages. From Ryuko, "Thank you for the stuffed rabbit. I'm going to put on my desk at the agency. Today was really fun." From Shino, "I hope you had as good a time as we did. The stuffed cat is lovely. Sleep well, Izuku." She had used his first name without any honorific. That felt significant somehow. Then another message, this one from Mirko. "Saw some photos online of you at a festival with the Pussycats. Looks like you had fun. Do not forget about training Monday morning though." And one from Midnight. "I hope the festival was everything you wanted it to be. We still need to talk about your progress report this week. Perhaps over tea again." Izuku stared at his phone, at these messages from four incredible women who had become such important parts of his life. He typed responses to each of them, keeping them casual and friendly, while his mind spun with conflicting emotions. When he finally got home, his mother took one look at his face and smiled knowingly, but did not say anything. She just hugged him and told him she was glad he had a good time. That night, lying in bed, Izuku tried to sort through his feelings logically. These women were his teachers, his mentors, heroes he had admired from afar before ever meeting them. Getting emotionally involved beyond professional respect would be inappropriate and could jeopardize both his training and their careers. But logic had never been particularly good at overruling emotions. And the truth was, he cared about them as people, not just as teachers. He looked forward to seeing them not just for the training, but for the conversations, the moments of connection, the feeling of being understood and valued. He thought about Mirko's fierce grin and the way she pushed him to be better, about Midnight's gentle wisdom and the warmth in her eyes when she talked to him, about Shino's quiet strength and Ryuko's infectious energy. They were all amazing in their own unique ways, and somehow, impossibly, they all seemed to care about him too. Izuku pulled his blanket up to his chin, staring at the darkness of his ceiling. His life had become incredibly complicated in the best possible way. He had no idea where any of this was heading, but for the first time in his life, he was not analyzing every possible outcome or trying to predict the future. He was just going to experience it and see where it led. With that thought, he finally drifted off to sleep, a small smile on his face and the memory of fireworks still dancing behind his eyelids. The Monday morning air was crisp as Izuku made his way to Mirko's agency, his mind still replaying moments from the festival. He'd spent all of Sunday catching up on homework and trying to process the confusing feelings swirling in his chest. Every time he thought about the way Shino had touched his cheek or how Ryuko had hugged him, his heart would race. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. Today was about training, nothing else. He needed to focus. When he arrived at the agency, Mirko was waiting outside, which was unusual. She leaned against the wall with her arms crossed, her red eyes tracking his approach with an intensity that made him nervous. "Morning, Mirko," Izuku called out, trying to sound casual despite his suddenly racing pulse. "You're 2 minutes late," she said flatly. Izuku checked his phone in panic. "No, I am actually 1 minute early according to my clock." Mirko's serious expression cracked into a grin. "Gotcha. Just messing with you, kid. You look way too relaxed walking up here. Thought I would put you on edge." Izuku let out a relieved laugh. "You definitely succeeded. I thought I had messed up somehow. Come on inside. We need to talk before we start training today." Mirko pushed off the wall and walked into the agency, and Izuku followed with growing curiosity. They sat in her office rather than heading to the training area. The room was surprisingly neat, with a few hero awards on shelves and several photos of Mirko with other pro heroes. She gestured for him to sit on the couch while she perched on the edge of her desk. "So, festival with the Pussycats, huh?" Mirko's tone was casual, but her eyes were sharp. "How'd that go?" Izuku felt his face warm slightly. "It was really fun, actually. We ate festival food, played games, watched fireworks. It was nice to just relax for once without thinking about training or hero work." "Just the 3 of you?" "Yes, just me, Mandalay, and Pixie Bob." Izuku was not sure where this was going. "Is something wrong?" Mirko was quiet for a moment, seeming to consider her words carefully. This was unusual for her, since she typically said whatever was on her mind without filter. "Look, kid, I'm going to be straight with you, because that is how I operate. I have been doing this hero thing for a long time, and I have seen a lot of complicated situations." "Okay." Izuku's confusion must have shown on his face. "You are a good-looking kid with a genuine personality and serious dedication. You are also still a teenager who is spending a lot of one-on-one time with several attractive female heroes." She met his eyes directly. "I just want to make sure you are being smart about boundaries in professional relationships." Izuku felt like someone had dumped ice water over his head. "I would never do anything inappropriate. All of you are my teachers, and I have nothing but respect for everyone who is training me. The festival was just a friendly outing, nothing more." Mirko held up a hand. "I'm not accusing you of anything. I am just saying that feelings can get complicated when you spend a lot of intense time with people. Trust me, I know." She ran a hand through her white hair, looking almost uncomfortable. "And it is not just about you. We are all responsible for maintaining appropriate relationships." There was something in her tone that made Izuku look at her more carefully. "Mirko, is everything okay?" She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Yeah, everything is fine. I just want to make sure we are all on the same page here. You are my student, I am your teacher, and that is the line we do not cross. Clear?" "Crystal clear," Izuku said firmly, even as his heart sank slightly at the definitive statement. "Good. Now that we have had that awkward conversation, let's go beat each other up for a few hours." Mirko stood and headed for the door, but paused to look back at him. "And Izuku, for what it is worth, you're doing great. Not just with the training, but as a person. Any hero would be lucky to work with you." The use of his first name again, combined with the genuine warmth in her voice, made his chest tight. "Thank you, Mirko. That really means a lot coming from you." Their training session that day was intense, perhaps more so than usual. Mirko pushed him hard, forcing him to dig deep and use everything she had taught him. But there was something different in the way she moved and how she corrected his form. Her touches lingered slightly longer when adjusting his stance. Her praise came more freely, and several times he caught her watching him with an expression he could not quite read. During a water break, they sat against the wall together, both breathing hard from exertion. "You have really improved," Mirko said, taking a long drink. "When we started, you could barely last 5 minutes again. Now you can go 30, 40 minutes of full intensity sparring. That is serious growth. I have had an amazing teacher." Izuku replied honestly. "Everything you have taught me about combat instincts and trusting my body has changed how I approach fights." Mirko turned to look at him, and their faces were closer than he expected. He could see the flecks of darker red in her eyes, the way a few strands of white hair had escaped her ponytail and stuck to her slightly sweaty forehead. "You know what your best quality is?" she asked quietly. "My analysis skills? Strategic thinking?" Izuku guessed. "Nah, lots of people have those. Your best quality is that you genuinely care. About being a hero, about the people you're trying to save, about getting better. She reached out and flicked his forehead lightly, but her hand lingered, brushing some of his green hair back. That passion is what is going to make you a great hero someday. Izuku's breath caught. They were so close he could feel the warmth radiating from her body, could smell the faint scent of her shampoo mixed with sweat. His eyes dropped to her lips for just a fraction of a second before he caught himself and looked away. Mirko pulled her hand back quickly, standing up abruptly. Right, break time is over. Let's go again. The rest of the session felt charged with an energy that had nothing to do with combat. Every time they made physical contact during sparring, Izuku felt hyper-aware of it. When Mirko pinned him during a grappling exercise, he had to focus very hard on escape techniques rather than how her body pressed against this. By the time training ended, they were both sweaty, exhausted, and avoiding extended eye contact. Same time Wednesday, Mirko asked as Izuku gathered his things. Yeah, I will be here. Izuku paused at the door. Mirko, thank you for the talk this morning. I know it was probably awkward to bring up, but I appreciate you looking out for me. That is what mentors do, kid. She smiled, but did not quite reach her eyes. Now get out of here before you're late for class. As Izuku left the agency, he pulled out his phone and saw a message from Midnight reminding him about their session that afternoon. His stomach flipped with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. After the conversation with Mirko about boundaries, he was suddenly very aware of how he was interacting with all his mentors. That afternoon, Izuku arrived at Midnight's tactical training room to find her setting up an elaborate scenario. She wore her hero costume today, and he tried very hard to focus on her face and not let his eyes wander. Midoriya, perfect timing. She turned and smiled warmly. Today we are doing something special. I want to see how you handle a multi-villain scenario with civilians present and limited information about quirks and motivations. Sounds challenging. Izuku set down his bag and pulled out his notebook. What are the parameters? Midnight walked over and gently closed his notebook. No notes today. I want you to rely on your instincts and real-time analysis. You will not always have time to write things down in the field. Right, of course. Izuku put the notebook away, tried to ignore how close Midnight was standing. Before we start, how are you doing? Like really doing? Midnight's voice was soft, concerned. You have been pushing yourself incredibly hard with all this training on top of your regular schoolwork. I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I'm okay, really. A little tired sometimes, but it is worth it. Izuku smiled reassuringly. Everyone has been great about checking in on me, including taking you to festivals. Midnight's tone was light, but there was something underneath it. Izuku felt his face heat up. The Pussycats thought I needed some social time to balance out the training. It was just a friendly outing. I'm sure it was. Midnight stepped back, her professional demeanor sliding back into place. Just remember that it is okay to have boundaries, Midoriya. You do not have to say yes to everything people suggest just because you do not want to disappoint them. I know, but I genuinely wanted to go. They are really nice people, and I enjoy spending time with them. Something flickered across Midnight's face, there and gone too quickly to identify. Of course. I'm glad you had fun. Now, then, shall we begin the scenario? The simulation was complex and challenging. Izuku found himself having to make split-second decisions about which threats to prioritize, how to evacuate civilians while dealing with multiple villains, and how to coordinate with simulated other heroes. Midnight watched from her observation position, occasionally throwing in complications through the computer system. After an hour of running through different scenarios, each more challenging than the last, Midnight called for a break. Izuku was mentally exhausted from the constant decision-making and analysis. You did well, Midnight said, handing him water. Your tactical thinking is getting sharper. You're learning to balance immediate action needs with longer-term strategic planning. Thank you. I keep trying to apply what you teach me, thinking about psychology and motivation rather than just the surface-level tactics. Izuku drank gratefully. It helps that you explain things in a way that makes sense to my analytical brain. Midnight smiled, sitting next to him on the bench. You know, I have trained several students over the years, but you're one of the most dedicated I have ever worked with. The way you absorb information and immediately try to apply it is remarkable. I just want to be worthy of all the time and effort everyone is investing in. All of you are such accomplished heroes, and you are all taking time out of your busy schedules to make me better. That is not something I take lightly." Midnight reached out and took his hand, squeezing gently. "Sweetie, you need to understand that we are not doing this out of obligation or because All Might asked us. We are doing it because we want to, because we see something special in you." Her hand was soft and warm in his, and Izuku found himself very aware of the contact. "Really? Really?" Midnight's dark eyes held his gaze. "You are kind, dedicated, intelligent, and you have a genuine desire to help people. Those qualities are rarer than you might think in this profession. Plus," she added with a playful smile, "you are actually pleasant to spend time with. That helps." Izuku felt his face flush. "You are all pleasant to spend time with too. I mean, I really enjoy our training sessions, not just because of what I am learning, but because I like talking with you and hearing your perspectives on things." Midnight's expression softened, and she squeezed his hand again before releasing it. "That is sweet of you to say. Tell me, are you planning anything for your birthday next month? Any big celebrations?" Izuku blinked in surprise. "How did you know my birthday is next month?" "I may have asked All Might for some basic information about my student," Midnight said with a slight smirk. "A teacher should know these things. So any plans?" "Not really. My mom usually makes my favorite dinner, and we have cake, but nothing major. Most of my friends do not even know when my birthday is since I've never really made a big deal about it." "Well, that will not do at all. You only turned 16 once. We should do something special." "We?" Izuku's heart skipped a beat. "Your mentors, silly. I'm sure the others will want to celebrate with you too." Midnight stood and stretched, and Izuku tried very hard not to stare. "Let me talk to Mirko and the Pussycats. We will plan something nice. You really do not have to go to any trouble." Izuku protested, even his warmth spread through his chest at the thought. "Too late. I have already decided." Midnight walked back to the simulation controls. "Now, ready for round 2? This time I am adding an environmental hazard." The rest of the session was demanding, but rewarding. By the time they finished, Izuku felt like his brain had been thoroughly wrung out. But he also felt accomplished, knowing he had successfully navigated scenarios that would have completely stumped him months ago. As he packed up his things, Midnight approached with a small wrap package. "I almost forgot. I saw this and thought of you." Izuku carefully unwrapped it to find a high-quality tactical analysis book written by a famous hero strategist. "Midnight, this is too much. These books are really expensive. Consider it an investment in my star pupil." She smiled warmly. "Besides, I want to discuss it with you once you have read it. Maybe over tea again? I really enjoyed our last outing." "I would like that." Izuku carefully placed the book in his bag. "Thank you so much. For the book, for the training, for everything." Midnight stepped forward and, before Izuku could react, kissed his cheek softly. "You are very welcome, sweetheart. Now get home and rest. I will see you Thursday." Izuku stood frozen for a moment, his hand unconsciously moving to touch his cheek where her lips had been. When he finally managed to move, he turned to see Midnight watching him with an expression that was equal parts affection and something more complicated. He mumbled a goodbye and left quickly, his mind reeling. That was definitely not a normal teacher-student interaction. Combined with the conversation he had had with Mirko that morning about boundaries, Izuku felt like he was standing on the edge of something significant and potentially dangerous. The train ride home passed in a blur as he replayed the moment over and over. The softness of Midnight's lips against his cheek, the warmth in her eyes, the way she had called him sweetheart with such genuine affection. His phone buzzed with a message from Mirko. "Do not forget tomorrow is a rest day. No training, just recovery. Doctor's orders, meaning my orders." Then one from Shino. "Looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Ryuko has been talking about the festival non-stop. I think you made quite an impression on her." And one from Ryuko herself. "Can't wait for training this weekend. Also been thinking about that night under the fireworks a lot. It was really special." Izuku stared at the messages, his confusion deepening. Were they all feeling this same strange shift in their relationships? Or was he reading too much into everything? Maybe he should talk to someone about this, get an outside perspective. When he got home, his mother immediately noticed something was different. "Izuku, is everything all right? You look troubled." "Just thinking about a lot of things, Mom. Training has been really intense lately." Inko studied her son's face carefully. "Is that all it is? You know you can talk to me about anything, right? Even things that might be complicated or confusing." Izuku hesitated, then decided to test the waters. Mom, hypothetically, if someone had feelings for people who were in positions of authority over them, what would you say about that? Inko's expression became very serious. Hypothetically, I would say that feelings cannot always be controlled, but actions can be, and that power dynamics in relationships are something to be very careful about. She sat down next to him on the couch. Is there something you want to tell me, sweetheart? It is complicated, Izuku said quietly. I respect all my mentors so much, and I am so grateful for everything they're teaching me. But lately, things have felt different, more personal, and I do not know if that is okay or if I'm crossing lines I should not cross. Inko put her arm around him. Izuku, you are 16 years old. It is completely natural to develop feelings for people you spend a lot of time with and admire. But these women are your teachers, and they are adults with responsibilities. Any relationship beyond mentorship would be inappropriate while you are their student. I know that. I do. It is just hard sometimes when they're all so amazing and kind, and they seem to care about me too. I'm sure they do care about you, but there is a difference between caring about a student and romantic feelings. Inko squeezed his shoulder. You need to maintain those boundaries, Izuku, for your sake and theirs. If these feelings are getting confusing, maybe you should talk to All Might or even take a break from some of the training. No, Izuku said immediately. I do not want to stop training. It is too important. I will just be more careful about boundaries. You are right. I need to keep things professional. Inko did not look entirely convinced, but she nodded. All right, but promise me that if things get more complicated, you will talk to someone. And remember that it is okay to say no to social invitations if you need space. I promise, Mom. Thank you for listening. That night, Izuku lay in bed with the tactical analysis book Midnight had given him, but he could not focus on the words. His mind kept drifting to the events of the day, to Mirko's touch lingering on his face, to Midnight's kiss on his cheek, to the messages from the Pussycats suggesting they were thinking about him. He knew his mother was right. He needed to maintain boundaries. These were professional relationships that should not become anything more. But knowing something intellectually and controlling his emotions were two very different things. His phone buzzed one more time. A message from Midnight. Sweet dreams, Midoriya. I hope you enjoy the book. Izuku typed and deleted several responses before finally settling on. Thank you again for the gift. Sleep well, Midnight Sensei. He added the sensei deliberately, a reminder to both of them about their relationship. But as he set his phone down and closed his eyes, he could still feel the ghost of her kiss on his cheek. The rest of the week passed in a strange liminal space where Izuku tried to maintain professional distance, while his mentors seemed to be doing the opposite. Mirko's touches during training correction lingered. Midnight found excuses for physical contact during their sessions. Even his text conversations with the Pussycats felt more intimate than before. By the time Saturday arrived, Izuku was a bundle of nervous energy. He took the train to the mountain facility, his mind spinning with determination to keep things professional today. No matter what happened, he would be respectful and maintain appropriate boundaries. Shino and Ryuko were both waiting when he arrived, and both broke into huge smiles when they saw him. Midoriya. Ryuko ran up and grabbed his hands excitedly. We have been planning all week. Today's training is going to be different. Different how? Izuku asked, tried to ignore how warm her hands were in his. Shino walked over more sedately, but with a smile. We thought it might be beneficial to incorporate some team-based exercises rather than just solo endurance training. Real hero work often involves coordination with others. That makes sense. Who will I be coordinating with? Us, obviously. Ryuko grinned. The three of us will run through scenarios together. It will help you learn how to work with teammates who have different quirks and fighting styles. The training that day was indeed different. Instead of Izuku facing challenges alone, the three of them worked together to navigate obstacle courses and combat Earth B simulations. It required constant communication and awareness of each other's positions and capabilities. What surprised Izuku was how naturally they worked together. Shino's telepathy meant she could coordinate their movements perfectly. Ryuko's Earth manipulation provided tactical advantages and creative solutions. And Izuku's power and the combat skills he had learned from Mirko made him effective at dealing with direct threats. During one particularly challenging simulation, Izuku found himself back to back with Shino defending against Earth beasts from multiple directions. Her presence was calm and steady, and he could hear her voice in his mind, guiding him to threats he could not see. Left side, 2 incoming. I will handle the ones behind you. Got it. Izuku spun and delivered a one-for-all enhanced kick that shattered the Earth construct. Thanks for the warning. You're doing great. Keep your breathing steady. Shino's mental voice was warm and encouraging. When the simulation ended, all 3 of them were breathing hard but smiling. That was incredible, Izuku said enthusiastically. The coordination and teamwork aspect added a whole new dimension. I could feel how you were managing the information flow and keeping us all aware of the tactical situation. You adapted really well, Shino said, and there was pride in her voice. Many people struggle to fight effectively while also processing telepathic communication, but you handled it naturally because you're already used to thinking 10 steps ahead, Ryuko added, slinging an arm around his shoulders. That analytical brain of yours is perfect for team coordination. They took a break for lunch, sitting together on a blanket overlooking the mountain vista. Ryuko had packed food for all of them, and they ate while discussing the morning's training. You know, Midoriya, you have really become special to us, Ryuko said suddenly, her usual energy subdued into something more serious. Izuku paused mid-bite. What do you mean? Shino set down her food, looking at him directly. When we first agreed to train you, we thought it would be a professional arrangement, teaching you skills, helping you develop, that sort of thing. But getting to know you as a person has been unexpectedly wonderful. You are kind, dedicated, and genuinely good. Ryuko continued. Spending time with you does not feel like work. It feels like spending time with someone we care about. Izuku's heart raced. I care about you both too. You have been amazing mentors and friends. But we need to be careful about boundaries, right? You are my teachers, and I am your student. Shino and Ryuko exchanged a look, some unspoken communication passing between them. You are right, Shino said finally. Boundaries are important, but that does not mean we cannot acknowledge that our relationship has become more than just professional. We are not saying we should do anything inappropriate. Ryuko added quickly, just that we want you to know how much you mean to us. As a student, yes, but also as a person. There was a long moment of silence where all 3 of them sat with the weight of what had been said. The mountain breeze rustled through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, birds sang. You both mean a lot to me too, Izuku said quietly. More than I probably should admit. Training with you has been about more than just getting stronger. It has been about feeling valued and understood and cared for. Shino reached out and took his hand gently. Then let us just acknowledge that and be honest about it. We do not have to act on feelings or cross lines, but we do not have to pretend they do not exist either. Ryuko took his other hand. We can figure this out together, all 3 of us. Izuku looked between these 2 incredible women, his heart full of complicated emotions. This was not what he had planned. He was supposed to maintain distance, to keep things professional. But sitting here, hands held and hearts open, he could not bring himself to pull away. Okay, he said softly. We will figure it out together. They sat like that for a while, hands linked, looking out over the mountains. It felt like standing at a crossroads, knowing that the path forward was uncertain, but choosing to walk it anyway. Eventually, they resumed training, but something fundamental had shifted between them. The touches were more deliberate now, acknowledged rather than pretended away. When Ryuko adjusted his stance, her hands lingered on his shoulders. When Shino used her telepathy to guide him, her mental voice was warm with affection. At the end of the day, as the sun set and painted the sky in brilliant colors, they sat together again, this time more closely than before. Ryuko leaned her head against Izuku's shoulder, and Shino sat close enough that their legs touched. Next weekend is your birthday, right? Ryuko asked. How did you know that? Midnight told us. Shino smiled. We have been coordinating with her and Mirko to plan something special. All 4 of us want to celebrate with you. All 4 of you? Together? Izuku's mind spun at the thought. Is that okay? Or would you prefer separate celebrations? Shino asked. No, together is great. I just did not expect all my mentors to coordinate like that. We talk about you more than you probably realize. Ryuko said with a grin, comparing notes on your progress, discussing training approaches, that sort of thing. And maybe occasionally mentioning how great you are as a person too. Izuku felt his face heat up. You all talk about me? In glowing terms, I assure you. Shino stood and offered him a hand up. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. And Izuku, thank you for being honest with us today. I know it was not easy. As Izuku prepared to leave, both Shino and Ryuko hugged him goodbye. Not brief professional hugs, but real embraces that lasted several seconds. When they finally released him, all three of them were blushing slightly. The train ride home gave Izuku time to process everything that had happened. He had tried to maintain boundaries and ended up having the most emotionally honest conversation of his life instead. His mentors had essentially admitted to having feelings for him that went beyond professional respect. And instead of shutting it down like he probably should have, he had acknowledged his own feelings and agreed to figure things out together. His mother was going to kill him if she found out. But despite the potential complications and the confusion about what any of this meant for the future, Izuku felt lighter than he had in days. No more pretending, no more second-guessing every interaction, just honesty and the promise of figuring it out together. His phone lit up with messages as he neared his stop. From Ryuko, today was really important to me. Thank you for trusting us enough to be honest. From Shino, sleep well, Izuku. We will see you next weekend for your birthday celebration. From Mirko, heard from a Pussycats that training went well today. Also heard some other interesting things. We should talk Monday. From Midnight, 1 week until your birthday. I am very excited to celebrate with you. Sweet dreams, handsome. Izuku stared at that last message, at the word handsome that Midnight had never used before. Things were definitely changing, and fast. He took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and headed home. Whatever was happening, whatever this complicated situation was becoming, he would face it head-on, just like he faced everything else in his life, with determination, honesty, and hope that things would work out. Because despite all the complications and potential problems, there was one undeniable truth. He was happy, confused and nervous and completely out of his depth, but genuinely, truly happy. And that had to count for something. The week leading up to Izuku's 16th birthday passed in a blur of anticipation and anxiety. His training continued as usual, but there was an undercurrent of tension in every interaction with his mentors. Everyone seemed to be waiting for something, though Izuku was not entirely sure what. Monday morning arrived with unexpected sunshine, and Izuku found himself standing outside Mirko's agency with a sense of trepidation. She had mentioned they needed to talk, and he had a strong suspicion he knew what about. Mirko was waiting inside, but instead of her usual aggressive energy, she seemed almost subdued. She gestured for him to sit in her office rather than heading to the training area. So, she started without preamble. The Pussycats told me about your conversation on Saturday. Izuku felt his stomach drop. I can explain. We did not do anything inappropriate. We just talked about feelings and acknowledged that things have gotten complicated between us. Relax, kid. I am not mad. Mirko leaned back in her chair, studying him carefully. Actually, I am kind of relieved. At least now we are all being honest about what is happening here. What do you mean? Mirko sighed, running a hand through her white hair. Look, I'm going to be straight with you because that is who I am. I like you, Izuku. Not just as a student, but as a person. You are genuine, hardworking, and you have got this earnest quality that is actually pretty endearing. She met his eyes directly, and that complicates things because you are my student and I'm supposed to be professional. Izuku's heart hammered his chest. I like you too, Mirko. I like all of you. That is the problem. I do not know how I am supposed to choose, or even if I am supposed to be feeling any of this in the first place. Who said anything about choosing? Mirko raised an eyebrow. Look, this situation is weird and complicated and probably breaks about 50 different professional guidelines. But here is what I know. You're going to be 17 in a year, then 18 a year after that. You're not a child, even if you're still technically a student. So what are you saying? I am saying that we are all adults here who can make our own decision. Mirko stood and walked around her desk to sit next to him. If you have feelings for multiple people and they have feelings for you, then maybe the answer is not to force yourself to pick just one. Maybe the answer is to be honest about it and see where things go. That sounds crazy, but also kind of amazing. Izuku said quietly, do the others know you feel this way? We have been talking, all four of us. Mirko smiled slightly. Turns out we all independently developed feelings for our incredibly sweet and dedicated student. And after some very awkward conversations, we decided that if you're interested, We are all willing to explore this together. Together? Like all of you? All of us. No secrets, no competition, just honesty. Mirko placed a hand on his knee, and the touch sent electricity through him. But only if that is what you want, Izuku. No pressure, no expectations. If you would rather keep things professional, we will respect that. Izuku looked at this incredible woman, this top hero who could kick through buildings and fought without fear. She was looking at him with vulnerability he had never seen before, offering him something he had not even known was possible. "I want to try," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I do not know how this will work or if it is even a good idea, but I want to try." Mirko's grin was brilliant and genuine. "Good answer, kid. Now get changed. We still have training to do, and I'm not going easy on you just because we had a heart-to-heart." The training session that day was intense but different. Every touch during stance corrections felt deliberate. Every piece of praise came with a warmth that had not been there before. And when Mirko pinned him during a grappling exercise, she leaned down close to his ear and whispered, "You are doing great, Izuku. Keep pushing." The use of his name, combined with her breath on his ear, made his concentration evaporate. Mirko took advantage of his distraction to completely immobilize him, then laughed at his flustered expression. "Still need to work on maintaining focus under pressure," she teased, but there was affection in her voice. "That is not fair. You are using psychological warfare. All is fair in combat, kid. And in other things too." She offered him a hand up, and when he took it, she pulled him close for just a moment. "I'm glad we talked. This feels better than pretending." "It really does." Izuku agreed, his face warm but his heart light. That afternoon, Midnight Session had a similar energy. She had set up a complex tactical scenario, but before they started, she asked him to sit with her. "Mirko told you about our conversations?" Midnight asked gently. "She did, and I said I want to try whatever this is." Midnight smiled, reaching out to cup his cheek. "You are very brave, you know that? Not just in combat, but in being emotionally honest. That takes a different kind of courage. I learned from amazing teachers," Izuku said, leaning slightly into her touch. "Such a charmer." Midnight's thumb brushed across his cheekbone. "For your birthday this weekend, we have planned something special. All four of us will be there, and we want to make it a day you will never forget. I'm sure whatever you have planned will be wonderful." "Oh, it will be." Midnight leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss to his forehead, letting her lips linger for a moment. "Happy almost birthday, sweetheart." The tactical training that followed was challenging, but Izuku found himself more focused than ever. Knowing where he stood with his mentors, having that emotional clarity seemed to sharpen his mind rather than distract it. He navigated the scenarios with confidence, making decisions quickly and effectively. Midnight watched with obvious pride. "You are really coming into your own, not just as a fighter, but as a strategist. I think you are going to surprise a lot of people with how far you have come. I could not have done it without you. All of you have given me different pieces of what I need to be a complete hero, and you have given us something unexpected too." Midnight said softly, a reminder of why we became heroes in the first place. That genuine desire to help people and make the world better. You have rekindled something in all of us. As the week progressed, Izuku found himself floating through his classes at UA in a daze of happiness. His friends noticed the change immediately. Deku, who had been smiling all week, Uraraka commented during lunch. "Did something good happen?" "Just training going really well," Izuku said, which was true enough. "I feel like I'm finally starting to understand everything my mentors have been teaching me. Your specialized training program seems to be very effective," Ida noted, chopping his hand in his characteristic gesture. "You have become noticeably more confident in combat exercises." "Thanks, Ida. I have been really lucky to have such great teachers." Todoroki, who usually stayed quiet during these conversations, spoke up. "Are you going to introduce us to your mentors sometime? I would be interested in meeting the heroes who have influenced your development so significantly." Izuku nearly choked on his food. "Maybe someday. They're all really busy though." The truth was, he could not imagine introducing his classmates to the women he was apparently in some kind of unprecedented relationship with. That would raise questions he was definitely not ready to answer. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for whatever his mentors had planned. Izuku dressed in casual clothes, a nice green button-up shirt and dark jeans. then caught the train to the mountain facility where they had agreed to meet. When he arrived, he found all four of his mentors waiting together. Mirko, Midnight, Shino, and Ryuko stood in a group, and they all turned to smile at him when he approached. "Happy birthday, Izuku," Ryuko called out, running over to hug him tightly. "We have a full day planned for you," Shino added, joining the embrace. Mirko walked over and ruffled his hair affectionately. 16 years old, still just a kid, but growing up fast. Midnight was last, and she cupped his face gently before kissing his cheek. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Are you ready for your surprise?" "What kind of surprise?" "The kind where we show you how much you mean to us. Come on." Ryuko grabbed his hand and started pulling him toward the facility. Inside, they had transformed one of the training rooms into something completely unexpected. Decorations hung from the ceiling. A table was laden with food, and in the center was a cake decorated with a hero theme featuring All Might's colors. "You did all this for me?" Izuku felt tears prick his eyes. "Of course we did," Ryuko said enthusiastically. "You are special to us, Izuku. We wanted you to know that." They spent the morning eating, talking, and laughing together. The conversation flowed naturally between all five of them, with stories being shared and jokes being made. Izuku felt overwhelmed by how comfortable it all was, how these four incredible women had coordinated to make his day special. After they ate, Mirko stood and gestured for everyone to follow. "All right, presents time. We each got you something, but we are doing this in order." "There's an order?" Izuku asked with amusement. "Of course there is. I am first because I am the most impatient." Mirko handed him a wrapped box. Inside was a pair of high-quality combat gloves designed specifically for hand-to-hand fighting. They were reinforced but flexible, clearly expensive, and carefully chosen. "These are amazing, Mirko. Thank you so much. They are made from a special material that can withstand quirk-enhanced strikes without degrading," Mirko explained. "I got them custom-made for you based on your hand size and fighting style. Now you can punch harder without worrying about hurting yourself." Izuku tried them on immediately, flexing his hands and feeling the perfect fit. "I love them. Seriously, thank you." Mirko pulled him into a hug and whispered in his ear, "You are welcome, kid. Now try not to cry for the other presents." "Okay." Midnight went next, presenting him with an elegantly wrapped package. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound journal with his hero name embossed on the cover, along with a set of high-quality pens. "For your analysis and tactical planning," Midnight explained. "I noticed your current notebooks are falling apart from overuse. This should last you much longer and makes you look more professional too. This is beautiful." Izuku ran his fingers over the smooth leather. "I will treasure this, Midnight-sensei." "Just Midnight today," she smiled, then pulled him into a warm embrace. "Happy birthday, handsome." Shino presented her gift next, a small box that felt surprisingly heavy. When Izuku opened it, he found a custom-made communication earpiece. "This connects directly to my telepathy quirk when activated," Shino explained. "If you're ever in trouble or need backup, you can reach me instantly regardless of distance. I want to make sure you are always safe." Izuku felt his throat tighten with emotion. "This is incredibly thoughtful. Thank you, Shino." She hugged him tightly, and he felt her warmth and genuine care in the embrace. "You are very important to me, Izuku. I want to be able to protect you when I can." Finally, Ryuko bounced forward with an envelope. "Okay, mine is a little different." Inside the envelope were tickets to an exclusive hero convention happening next month, including VIP passes that would allow him to meet several top heroes and attend special panels. "Ryuko, these must have cost a fortune. The VIP passes alone are nearly impossible to get. I have connections." Ryuko grinned. "Plus, I am going with you, so it will be like a date. Well, our first official date anyway." "Our?" Izuku looked around at all four women. "We talked about it," Mirko said, crossing her arms but smiling. "We're going to take turns taking you on proper dates. Get to know you one-on-one in non-training contexts. If we are doing this whole unconventional relationship thing, we want to do it right. So the convention is my date with Ryuko, and the others have planned things too? I am taking you to a movie premiere next week," Midnight said with a sly smile. "I have connections in the entertainment industry and got us tickets to a hero documentary premiere with an after-party. I am taking you to an underground fighting tournament in 2 weeks." Mirko added, "Legal before you panic. It is where upcoming heroes test their skills." Thought you might enjoy watching and analyzing different fighting styles. And I planned a quiet evening at a traditional restaurant. Shino finished. Sometimes the best dates are just good conversation and food. Izuku looked around at these four incredible women, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. I do not know what I did to deserve all of you. You are you. That is enough. Midnight said softly. They spent the rest of the afternoon in the training facility, but instead of serious training, they played games and sparred in a lighthearted way. At one point, Izuku found himself trying to evade all four of them at once, which resulted in a lot of laughter and playful tackles. As the sun began to set, they moved outside to watch the sunset over the mountains. They sat together on a blanket, Izuku in the center with two women on each side. Mirko and Midnight flanked his left, while Shino and Ryuko took his right. This has been the best birthday I have ever had, Izuku said quietly. Thank you all so much. We're just getting started, Ryuko said, taking his hand. We have plenty more birthdays to make special, Shino added, taking his other hand. Mirko leaned her head against his shoulder. You're stuck with us now, kid. Hope you're ready for that. Midnight wrapped an arm around his waist from the other side. We take care of what is ours, and you are definitely ours now. The possessive words should probably have alarmed him, but instead, they made him feel safe and valued. He was theirs, and they were his in whatever complicated form this relationship took. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Mirko suddenly spoke up. Okay, I have been patient long enough. I am claiming the first kiss. What? Izuku's heart leaped into his throat. We talked about it. We each want to kiss you, properly, but we wanted your permission first. Mirko turned to face him directly. So what do you say, Izuku? Can I kiss you? Izuku's mouth felt dry, his heart racing so fast he thought he might pass out. Yes, you can kiss me. Mirko smiled, genuinely happy rather than her usual fierce grin. She cupped his face with both hands, her touch surprisingly gentle, and leaned in slowly. Their lips met softly at first, tentative and exploratory. Then Mirko deepened the kiss slightly, and Izuku felt like fireworks were going off in his head. When they finally separated, Izuku was breathing hard and his face felt like it was on fire. Mirko looked pleased with herself. Not bad for your first kiss, kid. How did you know that was my first kiss? You were way too flustered for it to have been anything else. Plus, you are adorable when you blush. Mirko settled back against his shoulder, looking satisfied. My turn, Ryuko said eagerly, moving to kneel in front of him. She was bouncing with excitement. Can I kiss you too, Izuku? Please, he managed to say, still dazed from Mirko's kiss. Ryuko's kiss was different, more enthusiastic and playful. She giggled against his lips before pulling back with a huge smile. That was amazing. You taste like birthday cake. Everyone laughed at that, and the tension broke slightly. Midnight moved next, her approach more sensual and deliberate than the others. She took his chin gently and tilted his face up to meet hers. My turn, sweetheart. She breathed against his lips before kissing him slowly and thoroughly. Her kiss was confident and skillful, and Izuku felt completely overwhelmed by the sensation. When she pulled back, she looked incredibly pleased. Delicious. I have been wanting to do that for weeks. Shino went last, and her approach was the gentlest of all. She leaned in slowly, giving him plenty of time to pull away if he wanted. Her kiss was soft and sweet, full of affection and care. When she ended it, she pressed her forehead against his. Thank you for trusting us with your heart, she whispered. We will take good care of it, I promise. Izuku sat there, thoroughly kissed and completely overwhelmed, surrounded by four beautiful women who apparently all had feelings. His brain was having trouble processing that this was actually his life now. So, Mirko said, breaking the silence. That settles it. We are officially doing this crazy thing. Are we going to tell anyone? Izuku asked nervously. Like All Might or Principal Nizu? Not yet. Midnight said thoughtfully. This situation is complicated enough without adding external opinions right away. Let us keep it between us for now while we figure out how this works. Agreed. Shino nodded. Though eventually we will need to address the professional complications. But not today, Ryuko declared. Today is just about celebrating Izuku and being happy together. They stayed on the mountain until late, talking and laughing and occasionally stealing more kisses. Izuku felt like he was living in a dream, some alternate reality where impossibly good things happened to him. When it was finally time to leave, they all walked him to the train station together. Each woman hugged him goodbye, with promises to see him soon for their individual dates. On the train ride home, Izuku stared at his reflection in the window and tried to process everything. He was in a relationship. No, he was in 4 relationships, with 4 pro heroes who were also his mentors. This was insane. This was inappropriate. This was probably going to cause huge problems down the line. And yet, he had never been happier. His phone buzzed with messages from all 4 women, each sending him goodnight wishes and reminders of their upcoming dates. He saved every message, a smile permanently fixed on his face. When he finally got home, his mother took one look at him and knew immediately that something significant had happened. "Good birthday?" she asked carefully. "The best," Izuku said honestly. "Mom, I need to tell you something, and you are probably going to freak out a little." Inko sat down heavily. "Oh no, it is about your teachers, is it not?" "Yeah." Izuku took a deep breath. "So, it turns out they all have feelings for me, and I have feelings for them, and we decided to try dating. All of us. Together." Inko was silent for a very long moment. "Izuku, that is extremely complicated and potentially problematic on multiple levels." "I know, but I really like them, Mom, and they make me happy. We're going to be careful and responsible about it. They are adults, Izuku, much older than you. The power dynamics alone are concerning. I understand that, but I'm almost 17, and in a year, I will be 18 and a pro hero myself. This is not some predatory situation. We all talked about it openly and honestly, and everyone is choosing this willingly." Inko rubbed her temples. "I need some time to process this. But Izuku, promise me that if anything feels wrong or uncomfortable, you will tell me immediately, and that you will be smart about this. Your education and hero career come first." "I promise, Mom." Izuku hugged her tightly. "Thank you for not completely freaking out." "Oh, I am freaking out internally. Trust me. But you are growing up, and I have to trust that you will make good decisions." She hugged him back fiercely. "Just be careful, please." That night, Izuku lay in bed reviewing the day in his mind. His 16th birthday had fundamentally changed his life. He had gifts from women who cared about him, plans for multiple dates, and a memory of 4 different kisses that made his heart race just thinking about them. His phone lit up one more time with a group message. Mirko had apparently created a group chat with all 5 of them. "Mirko, best birthday ever, right, kid? Midnight. I think we can all agree it was special. Sleep well, everyone. Ryuko, cannot wait for the convention next month. It is going to be so much fun. Shino, good night, Izuku. Sweet dreams." Izuku typed his response. "Thank you all for the most amazing birthday. I'm the luckiest person alive." 4 responses came back almost immediately, each with heart emojis and affectionate messages. Izuku screenshot the conversation, wanting to preserve this moment forever. As he drifted off to sleep, his last thoughts were about the future. Training would continue, his studies would continue, his path to becoming a hero would continue. But now he would have these 4 incredible women by his side, supporting him and caring for him in ways he had never imagined possible. Life was complicated and uncertain and full of potential problems, but it was also beautiful and exciting and full of promise. And for now, that was more than enough. The following Monday, Izuku arrived at UA with a new confidence in his step. His weekend had been incredible, and while he knew he needed to keep his personal life private, he could not help but feel happy. During hero training, Aizawa announced they would be doing teamwork exercises. Students were randomly paired, and Izuku found himself working with Todoroki. "You seem different," Todoroki observed as they prepared for their exercise. "More settled somehow. Just feeling good about my progress lately. The specialized training is really paying off. Your combat style has evolved significantly," Todoroki said in his usual blunt way. "You move with more confidence now. Less hesitation. I have had good teachers." Izuku smiled, thinking about Mirko's combat training. The exercise went well, with Izuku and Todoroki successfully completing their objective with time to spare. Afterward, several classmates commented on Izuku's improved performance. "Deku, that combination attack you did was so cool." Uraraka gushed. "Where did you get so good at hand-to-hand combat?" "My mentor Mirko has been teaching me. She is really intense, but effective." "The rabbit hero?" Kaminari perked up. "Dude, she is awesome. Can you introduce me?" "She is pretty busy," Izuku said quickly, his face heating up at the thought of introducing his classmates to his girlfriend. One of his girlfriends. The situation was still surreal. That evening, Izuku had his first official date with Midnight. She picked him up in her civilian clothes, wearing an elegant black dress that made his mouth go dry. Her hair was styled differently, softer and more romantic than her usual look. "You look beautiful," Izuku managed to say, grateful that his voice did not crack. "And you look very handsome." Midnight smiled warmly. "Ready for our evening?" The movie premiere was at an upscale theater in downtown Tokyo. As they walked the red carpet together, several photographers took pictures, though most seemed to assume Izuku was a young fan or relative rather than Midnight's date. Inside, they had VIP seats with excellent views of the screen. The documentary was about the evolution of hero society over the past 50 years, featuring interviews with retired heroes and historical footage. During the film, Midnight reached over and took Izuku's hand, intertwining their fingers. He glanced at her in the dim light and found her smiling at him. This was really happening. He was on a date with a pro hero, holding hands in a movie theater like a normal couple. After the film, they attended the after party at a nearby venue. Midnight introduced him to several heroes and industry professionals, always referring to him as her promising student. No one questioned it, accepting the cover story without suspicion. "You're very good at this," Izuku commented quietly during a lull in conversations. "At what?" Making this seem natural and normal when it is actually totally unprecedented and probably inappropriate by most standards. Midnight laughed softly. "Sweetheart, I have been in this industry for over 15 years. I know how to navigate complicated situations with discretion. Besides," she added, leaning close to whisper in his ear, "I do not care what anyone else thinks. You make me happy, and that is what matters." They left the party around 10, and Midnight drove him partway home before parking in a quiet area with a view of the city lights. "Thank you for tonight," Izuku said, genuinely grateful. "This was amazing. I have never been to anything like that before. There will be many more firsts for you." Midnight turned in her seat to face him. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. How are you feeling about all of this? The relationship, the multiple partners keeping it secret? Is it overwhelming?" Izuku considered the question carefully. "Honestly, sometimes it feels surreal. Like I'm going to wake up and realize it was all a dream. But when I am with any of you, it feels right. Natural. Like this is how things are supposed to be. Even with four women. Each of you brings something different to my life. Mirko pushes me physically and teaches me to trust my instincts. You challenge my mind and help me think strategically. Shino provides calm wisdom and makes me feel safe. Ryuko brings joy and energy and reminds me to have fun. I didn't want to give up any of those connections." Midnight reached out and cupped his cheek. "You are remarkably mature for 16. You know that? I've had to grow up fast. Comes with the territory of training to be the #1 hero. You are going to be incredible someday." Midnight leaned forward slowly. "May I kiss you again? Please." This kiss was different from the one at his birthday. More passionate, more urgent. Midnight's hand moved to the back of his neck, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing heavily. "I haven't wanted to do that all evening," Midnight admitted. "You looked so handsome in your suit, and the way you carried yourself at the party, so confident and mature. It took all my self-control not to kiss you in front of everyone. I'm glad you waited. That would have caused some problems." They sat together for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Midnight shared more stories from her early career, and Izuku talked about his childhood and his relationship with All Might. The conversation flowed easily, comfortable, and intimate. When Midnight finally drove him home, she parked a block away from his apartment building to avoid being seen together. "I had an amazing time tonight," Izuku said, reluctant to leave. "Me too, sweetheart." Midnight kissed him softly. "Now go get some sleep. You have training with Mirko in the morning, and she will not appreciate it if I keep you out too late. Tell her it was worth it." Izuku grinned, then leaned back in for another kiss before finally getting out of the car. As he walked to his apartment, he could not stop smiling. His life had become something out of a fantasy, and he was determined to enjoy every moment of it. The next 2 weeks passed in a wonderful blur. He continued his regular training with each mentor, but now there was an added dimension to their interactions. Small touches, affectionate words, stolen kisses when they were alone. His date with Mirko to the underground fighting tournament was exhilarating. She had secured them ringside seats, and they spent hours watching up and coming heroes demonstrate their skills. Mirko provided commentary, analyzing fighting styles and pointing out strengths and weaknesses. See how that guy telegraphs his right hook? His shoulder drops slightly before he throws it. Easy to read once you know what to look for. She leaned close to explain, her breath warm on his ear. During one particularly intense match, Mirko grabbed his hand excitedly. Did you see that combination? That is what I have been trying to teach you. Fluid transitions between strikes without any wasted movement. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Izuku found himself analyzing the fights with new understanding. After the tournament, they grabbed late-night ramen at a small shop Mirko frequented. This place does not look like much, but they have the best ramen in Tokyo. She slurped her noodles enthusiastically, completely unconcerned with appearances. Izuku loved seeing this casual side of her. At the agency, she was all business and intensity. But here, she was just a woman enjoying good food and good company. You know what I like about you, Izuku? Mirko said suddenly. You do not try to be anyone except yourself. You are genuine in a way most people are not. I could say the same about you. You're completely authentic. What you see is what you get. Damn right. Life is too short to pretend to be something you are not. Mirko reached across the table and took his hand. I'm really glad we're doing this, whatever this is. Me too. They walked through the city afterward, hand in hand, just talking and enjoying each other's company. When Mirko finally dropped him off near his apartment, she pulled him into a deep kiss that left him dizzy. See you Wednesday for training. She grinned. And try not to miss me too much before then. No promises. Izuku shot back, feeling bold. Mirko laughed, clearly delighted. You're getting better at flirting. I like it. His date with Shino was quieter, but no less meaningful. She took him to a traditional restaurant with private dining rooms, where they could talk without worrying about being overheard or recognized. The food was exquisite, multiple courses of beautifully prepared dishes. But even better was the conversation. Shino asked about his dreams for the future, his fears, his hopes. She listened with complete attention, making him feel heard and valued in a way that was deeply moving. You carry a lot of weight on your shoulders. Shino observed gently. The responsibility of one for all, the expectations from All Might, your own drive to be the best. Do you ever give yourself permission to just be a teenager? Not often, Izuku admitted. I always feel like I need to be training or studying or improving somehow. Like if I take time to relax, I am wasting precious time that could be spent getting stronger. That mindset will burn you out eventually. Shino reached across the table and took both his hands. You're allowed to rest, Izuku. You're allowed to be happy and enjoy life. Being a hero is not just about sacrifice. It is also about understanding what you are fighting to protect. And you cannot do that if you never let yourself experience joy. Her words struck something deep in him. He blinked back, unexpected tears. Thank you for reminding me of that. Always. That is what I am here for. To provide balance and perspective when you get too caught up in your own head. After dinner, they walked through a nearby garden, lit beautifully with lanterns for the evening. The atmosphere was romantic and peaceful, and Izuku felt completely at ease. This has been perfect, he said softly. Just being here with you, talking and enjoying the moment. I needed this more than I realized. Shino stopped walking and turned to face him. Izuku, I want you to know that I care about you deep, not just as a student or even as a romantic partner. I care about your well-being, your happiness, your growth as a person. If this relationship ever becomes a burden rather than a joy, I want you to tell me. It is not a burden. It is one of the best things that has ever happened to me. Shino smiled and pulled him into a gentle kiss. They stood there in the garden, surrounded by lantern light and the soft sounds of the night, and Izuku felt completely content. Finally, there was the convention with Ryuko. She picked him up early on Saturday morning, practically vibrating with excitement. This is going to be so much fun. She bounced in the driver's seat. I have been looking forward to this all month. The convention center was packed with hero fans, aspiring heroes, and industry professionals. Their VIP passes got them access to exclusive areas and priority seating at panels. Ryuko dragged him from booth to booth, trying on hero merchandise, taking photos, and meeting other heroes. Her energy was boundless, and Izuku found himself caught up in her enthusiasm. At one point, they attended a panel about the future of hero technology. During the presentation, Ryuko leaned over and whispered, "You're going to change the industry someday, you know that? You have got the mind and the heart for it. Only if I have good people supporting me." Izuku whispered back, "You will always have me." Ryuko took his hand and squeezed. During lunch, they found a quiet corner away from the crowds. Ryuko suddenly became more serious than usual. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, fidgeting with her napkin. "Of course. I was not sure about this whole multiple partner thing at first. I have always been a romantic who imagined finding one special person and building a life with. But then I got to know you, and I got to know the others better too, and I realized that maybe there's not just one right way to love someone." She looked at him earnestly. "What we have, all 5 of us together, it works. It feels right, and I am grateful to be part of it." Izuku felt his heart swell. "I am grateful too, Ryuko. You bring so much light and happiness into my life. I cannot imagine not having you in it." Ryuko's eyes got misty. "You are going to make me cry at a hero convention." She laughed, wiping at her eyes. "Come on, let's go find more fun things to do." They spent the rest of the day enjoying the convention, and by the time it ended, both of them were exhausted but happy. On the drive back, Ryuko sang along to the radio, completely unself-conscious, and Izuku found himself falling even more for her carefree spirit. When she dropped him off, she pulled him into an exuberant kiss. "Thank you for the best date ever. Same time next year?" "Definitely," Izuku promised. As he walked to his apartment, his phone buzzed with messages in the group chat. "Mirko, how was the convention?" "Midnight. I hope Ryuko did not exhaust you too much." "Shino, welcome home, Izuku." "Ryuko, best day ever. Thank you for being the perfect date." Izuku smiled and typed his response. "Every day with all of you is the best day. Thank you for making me so happy." 4 responses came back almost instantly, each filled with affection and warmth. As Izuku prepared for bed that night, he reflected on how much his life had changed in just a few months. He was stronger, smarter, more confident. He had relationships that made him happy and supported his growth. He was on the path to becoming the hero he had always dreamed of being. And he had